going from job to job, you still got to take yourself with you, fortunately or unfortunately, right?
All right, Ty, you ready to have some fun?
Always.
All right. Timeout. Tyler, who are we taking a timeout with today?
Kevyn, good to see you, my man. And ladies and gentlemen, we have Donna Dedee, the president and CEO of Holy Childhood and Special Touch Bakery. Donna, thanks for being on the show. And we always start off with the fun little question of, if you had 24 hours in a day to do anything you wanted to with a limited amount of money, what would you be doing?
Well, napping? No, I'm only kidding. We're all a little tired, aren't we? What would I be doing? Probably taking my family somewhere exotic. If I could afford it, we could go for a quick somewhere. And because we don't spend enough time together and don't often have time to do those kinds of things. So that's probably what it would be. Pretty exciting, huh?
Where's the best vacation you've ever been on?
So many places. I actually, for the first time in my life, traveled a couple of years ago to Italy with some friends, and it was just a phenomenal and almost life-changing experience in terms of absorbing the culture and being there. But also with my husband, we traveled to Northern California, and then the Lake Tahoe, Napa Valley, those types of places, Arizona. Really beautiful and nice to enjoy those spaces too. So
That's
Right,
really
right
cool.
on.
I want to go
Yeah,
back to real quick before I get into my fun question. You mentioned like this evolution that you had by traveling to Italy, of this life-changing experience. What was it? What part of the culture that you fall in love with that really just changed your perspective, maybe?
I am Italian, partially Italian. My mother is Italian. My father was
The good
Dutch.
blood is also what it's referred as. Yes, yeah.
Well, I love my father also. So, um, but to go there and see the origins of some of those cultural things that shape us in our lives, it was pretty revealing to me and telling. But the thing I took away from it is just the beauty, the natural beauty, and absorbing the moment, slow down a little bit because that's what the culture there is. That was spectacular, and it taught me a lot. It slowed me down a little bit, and I tried to carry those lessons. I'm not always very successful at it, but I try to remember that that's what we have to do.
Well, we're all works in progress, and I still
Yeah.
remember my family vacation to Sicily too, and I just found it amazing that they shut down for lunch for 2 hours every single day. You could not even get a meal. Every business closed so they could go home and have a meal with their family. And I just thought, man, could you imagine that in the United States? Like, I think sheer pandemonium or chaos that here we are giving somebody 2 hours to go spend time with their family or friends during the work hours, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, slowing down, taking it all in.
Mhm.
Tyler and I are commonly saying just how it's all about the journey and never really has been about the destination itself. If you were to design maybe a bumper sticker or a billboard, right, Donna, that somebody had to drive by or got to really get an inspirational message from Donna Dedee to start their day or end it, what bumper sticker are you slapping on the back of your car?
Take a breath.
Ooh, I like that.
Take a breath. And I'm sure we'll get into why as we go through. But if we're talking about leadership and self-improvement and self-awareness, I try to think about that every day. And I'm not so good at it all the time. So
I
Hey,
love
but
this
that's why
attitude,
God loves
Donna.
us. We're flawed.
Yes, yes. And before we get into your professional journey, I always like to ask people, Donna, who was Donna Dedee before St. John Fisher? Like, what built you up to be you at a younger age?
before my college experience, you mean?
Yeah.
Who was I? So I was as a kid, so painfully shy and introverted that if I had to make a phone call, I would be fearful that somebody was actually going to pick up and answer the phone, and I'd have to actually speak to someone. And that's the truth. That's how painfully shy I was as a kid. And those were tendencies that really shaped me. And to think about then subsequently after St. John Fisher, what I ended up doing for a living, working in media, you're like, wait a minute, that's a little incongruous, right? But those were things that I had to work on all through my career, and quite frankly, still working on as well. That's another thing. But that's who I was, very shy, very driven then, even through high school, very involved, played sports, did clubs, and really had a great high school experience that was better than what my elementary, middle school experience was, because, had experienced bullying back in that day, way back, because of the shyness and how that manifests itself, and decided as a high school student, you know what, I'm going to redefine myself. I'm not going to be this shy kid, and I'm going to bust through that. And that's how I became very involved in things. And so that's who I was in high school. And it sort of set me up for what I have become as an adult, I think.
Someone push you or
Yeah, I was
influence
just
you
going
to
to ask the
overcome
same
that
thing.
shyness?
I think my family, my parents, were very, very encouraging. My dad has passed since. My mom is still with us, and um, really astute in understanding that you have to bust through it, and encouraged me to get involved and do things, and has always been very, very supportive, even if I didn't necessarily have the confidence that I might have needed to do it myself. So,
If you
and
go
my now.
If
Mhm.
you go when you
Go
go
ahead.
back and kind of as you're reflecting on your childhood, can you go back to a singular moment or an event or anything that proved to you that it was something that you had to maybe work on or wanted to work on? It sounds like your father pushed you, right? Our parents are always pushing us to become hopefully the best version of ourselves, right? But can you go back to an event that showed that Donna, you need to have more of a voice and take center stage versus being a background singer?
Hmm. I think it was my parents pushing and supporting, but it was just the transition from into high school, new opportunity. It was like a fresh start, I
Mhm.
guess. And that's how I approached it. And then it was incremental. It was, a success here, a success there, a trial here, a trial there. Here's what I might like. Oh boy, I think I'm okay at that. And suddenly you begin to build confidence when you succeed, when you try it and you realize, wow, I've learned, I've improved, and I'm good at that, and people recognize it, and suddenly it's all confidence building,
Mhm.
and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at
Mhm.
that point. At a really young age, immature age, right? I mean, we're talking about high school,
Yeah.
but how formative, right? That you you see, I can do that, and that's a good feeling.
Oh, definitely. I was just listening, obviously, this morning. I was with a psychologist talking about the impacts of social media on just childhood. And we're going through, to your point, at 13, I think I was too, when I was bullied. But that's
Mhm.
really your as you're entering into puberty, your brain is really going through a shift. And some of these life events, we can call them trauma, we can just call them failures, or we can call them successes, whatever we want to say, really has a lasting impact on individuals, and that we're all kind of going through this journey, but it's the playing, right? It's the hands-on, it's the doing, it's the, I love how you said trial, right? Trial. It was either successful or it was a failure or it was a learning opportunity, right?
Mhm.
Um, and we're not trying or doing as much as we once did in our childhood because we feel that everything from a social media perspective is right in the palm of our hand. Anything we wanted
Mhm.
to know, anything we wanted to learn, anything we wanted to get good at. So I just found that really eye-opening, especially given what you had just shared. I want to get into the leadership conversation. I just have one more fun conversation question, I guess, to ask you, Donna. if we were to catch you right on 490 sitting in traffic, it's hard hat season up here in Rochester now, Tyler. We got cones everywhere. But if we were to drive past your car and we see Donna singing at the top of her lungs in the car next to us, what song are we most likely to catch you singing?
Let's see. I'm not sure a particular song, but it's probably the Eagles.
Ooh,
Yeah. The Doobie Brothers. A little
very
Carrie
nice.
Underwood. Let's see. What's our repertoire? My husband and I are avid music fans, and we usually every summer we have a whole litany of concerts that we will go and attend. We've traveled many times to see the Eagles. This tour is it's incredible. The um, Hotel California tour was phenomenal. You know, front to back, the album was amazing. This summer, let's see who we're going to try to see the Eagles, but they haven't put out all their dates yet. We're going to go see Carrie Underwood, Zach Brown. Who else?
Wow.
We've
That's a
kind
packed
of an eclectic,
summer calendar of
view.
concerts.
Yeah, we're the old people dancing in our seats.
Yeah.
Nobody
Age
really
is
wants
only
to
a
see that,
feeling.
but
That is
and a
awesome.
little Keith Urban too.
Well, right on, Donna. And I guess let's just get into some leadership stuff. And I could talk music all day with you, Donna. There's something about it that just it's like a healthy drug to me. You know, when you feel the bass, especially these live concerts, it's like you can't explain it. You know,
Uh-huh.
and I guess I'm really interested in your back in '95, Donna. Can we start there real quick?
If
Yeah.
I can remember,
Back from
I
this
don't know.
introverted girl, and then her first job. That's why when she said it, I was like, how the heck did she make that transition?
Yeah, can you just? I mean, what was the most fun part of being the director at Fox Rochester? I mean, there's that had to be some fun.
It was great fun, great career, but it even goes back earlier than that, even more ancient history. So, all right, now I'm going to give you the inside baseball here. So it was let's see, back in 1979, 80. I participated in this career awareness exploring program that was actually run by the Boy Scouts local council, but the career awareness segment of it allowed girls back then. And it was an experience that brought me to a few sessions at Gannett newspapers. And because I like to write, writing is really that's my thing. And went to Gannett and was just blown away by the whole aura of the newspaper. And I was like, well, that's what I'm going to do. I want to be a newspaper reporter. You know, the smell of the press room, because, you know, back when it was pre-digital, you know, it just had a real feel to it. You could actually see the paper coming off the presses, which was pretty neat. So I decided I wanted to be a journalist. And then, so I'm really putting myself out there now. Then I entered completely against my, you know, my shy kid thing. There was a scholarship program. It was, it is called Junior Miss. Not a beauty pageant. It's a scholarship program. I'm telling you. No, it is. But it was a scholarship program that focused on leadership, character, physical fitness, those types of things. Diane Sawyer from ABC News was actually America's Junior Miss in the 60s, I think. So gives you a sense of the kind of thing. So I said, oh, well, I'm going to try to do that. It was one of those things I tried in high school. And so I won the Monroe County competition. And it was a really slow news day one day. And Maggie Brooks was a weekend reporter at Channel 10 at the time. And they had no news happening that day. So they came and they interviewed me about winning this thing. So that was the moment I saw what television news could be and television reporting and storytelling. And I thought, well, the newspaper's great, but I want to do that.
Mm.
And I want to use video and words to tell stories. And so poor Maggie, and it was Scott Henderson was the videographer. After I met them, I called them and I'm like, could I come hang out on weekends and shadow you? And so they let me, and them and Gary Nurnberg, another name from the past, Joe Paglia, all these people at Channel 10, they just allowed me to ride in the back seat when they went to news stories and learn and absorb.
Wow.
And that's when I was bitten by this bug to become a TV reporter. So became that at Channel 10 and then worked there for almost 20 years. Went to Fox, actually it was 14 years there, Fox Rochester after that, and was the news director and was anchoring. We launched the 10 o'clock news on Fox, which was a great experience.
Wow.
And my first foray into management, which, who knew that I had any capacity for that whatsoever. And there'd been a consultant when I worked at Channel 10 who asked me once, he said, do you ever think about getting into management? And I'm like, what are you telling me? I'm terrible on the air. I should, go behind the scenes. No, I just see some capacity in you. So a little bug and then so yes, to answer your question, this is a long-winded answer. Fox Rochester was a real kick. We launched that operation, made some great friends, wonderful organization, and learned a ton in doing that about myself and about leadership and management. Did some things right, some things wrong too. So
Do you recall the coolest story you ever got to cover? Does anything come to mind?
oh, there's a ton of cool stories. But one of my favorites, I mean, it was a terrible event. The San Francisco earthquake in 1989. And
Mhm.
I happened to be visiting my brother, who at the time lived in Southern California. I was on vacation, and the earthquake happened, and the station called me and said, "Hey, could you fly up to, San Jose and San Francisco and cover this for us?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course." And I remember flying. I don't even remember how I got to the Marina District in San Francisco, except there was a group of people, there was one rental car, and I got in a rental car with like five other people I'd never met. We all were at the national rental desk, and we all drove up north. And that's how I got to the Marina District. And there I was and walking down the sidewalk and people from Rochester saying, "Oh my God, you're Donna Dedee from Channel 10."
Oh
And
God.
grabbing a photographer from CBS News and saying, "Could you just shoot this? Shoot this now." Did an interview, did an uplink via satellite, and it was an amazing experience,
That is
despite the
cool.
fact that it was a tragic event.
Yeah.
But um, that was the kind of thing. And then, in a million local stories with incredible people, and it was such a privilege to tell people's stories and just really have a bird's eye view of the fabric of our community and the people who make it great in their best of times and their worst of times. And people would allow you to really come into their lives and in ways that we probably didn't have business
Yeah.
doing. But
Yeah.
it was an incredible journey.
That's awesome. Was that the one during the World Series? Is
Yes.
that
Yep.
the
As a matter of fact, it was.
Wow. I'm just sitting back here at a couple of things that you said, obviously in leadership, storytelling, right? I know the importance of that, but effective communication, just how much better or how much more of a priority you made some of those things given what you have done previously. And then I go to that inflection point where you're talking about a gentleman who asked you if you ever thought about management or leadership, just given the strengths that he was seeing that you displayed. And sometimes I think those are the best opportunities that I've come across in my own life is that other person across the aisle seeing something in myself that I couldn't even see. And giving you that nudge or planting that seed,
Hmm.
and it seems like that was a big inflection point of your life because maybe not at that moment that you thought, but But here it is now reflecting on this opportunity and these experiences. Seems like you're a highly reflective individual, and you had mentioned some of the great lessons that you had for management and leadership, and also learning a lot about yourself through that journey that you just mentioned, that introverted individual, but really liked writing. And then you saw the power of video and communication to really get a message to others. What other lessons do you rely on every single day as being a leader, not only at Holy Childhood and Special Touch, but also in the greater community?
Yeah.
What lessons have you learned from those experiences to make you this leader that you are today, Donna?
So, but that's a multifaceted question. First of all, I'd say when, people look at the resume and they say, this makes no sense. How do you go from being a TV reporter to running an agency that serves people with intellectual and developmental disabilities? Oh, and by the way, a commercial bakery that's going to make 1.8 million pies this year. What? That doesn't make any sense. But lessons learned on those transferable skills is where it ends up making sense. Because the first transferable skills that I realized were all about communication and interpersonal relationships, understanding how to make that work, understanding how to use those skills that were innate and inherent in the journalism career. I use them every day here today. It's interacting with people who are reporting to me or who are not necessarily my direct reports, the organization, being the organizational leader. I use my communication skills all the time. That being said, there were other lessons that I've learned that were really hard, that reflecting back on my first management position at Fox Rochester, and then carrying through to United Way, Bishop Kearney, and now here, there were some things I did not do very well, and I'm not proud of it. And it had to do with learning. I was always trying to prove myself, and that probably came from the shy kid. Always having to prove that I'm worthy of the position, I'm good enough. And sometimes when you're immature in your leadership, you think that that means you have to rule with an iron fist, that you always have to be in control, that you can never admit that you were wrong or don't know. Or what I really understand today, I am never the smartest person in the room. And now the question that I will always ask of the people around me is, what do you think? And then I'll come up with what I think, gleaned from what they've given me, because they're smarter than I am. I did not know that back then at all. And I will tell you, I made great relationships, which are maintained to this day with folks from Fox. But I heard John DiTullio, who is a renowned sportscaster in our community, that I'm really proud to say I brought here from Erie, Pennsylvania. Wow. And he became our sports anchor at Fox. But I heard him being interviewed about his experience back then one day, and somebody asked him, "Who's your toughest boss?" And he said, "Me." And he said, "Donna Dedee, fair, but really tough. Yeah, she was tough. She was hard." And oh my God, it killed me, because I don't want to be known as the tough boss. I want to be known as collegial and collaborative, someone who's bringing the best out of the people you're working with, and not necessarily pounding your fist saying, "Do this my way because I'm smart," which is apparently what they felt. and hearing that made me want to be better, and made me want to understand that that is not the person you are or you want to be. You want to learn how to make people around you better and want to work with you in the servant leader tendency, which is now what I subscribe to. And I'm never 100% successful at that, but it's what I'm trying to do. It's what I'm trying to be. And
How
People,
important was that, I guess, to get the perspective of somebody else on the other side of you? Because I guarantee, like, sometimes that feedback, right, good, bad, or indifferent, is all I've always viewed as gold. Because if we're ultimately trying to become our best or be our best for not only ourselves, our families, and our loved ones, but also the people that we have some responsibility over their lives, how, I guess, how impactful was that moment for you? Because I think sometimes we get so busy in doing that
Mhm.
we think we're doing things with the best intention. However, it's being received entirely differently.
Yeah, that's critical, and that is life-changing, and I'll tell you what, aside from people I work with giving me that feedback over time, here are the things you need to work on, if they're brave enough to tell me.
Exactly.
Because people are afraid. They're afraid for their employment. They're afraid they're gonna hurt your feelings. I mean, my beautiful assistant, who she is amazing, she is my sounding board today, and she will tell me. And for, I'll ask her, did I handle that right? Or was my demeanor okay? Or should I have approached it differently? And she'll be like, not so much. Nah, and I appreciate that, because if she's not telling me, who's going to tell me?
Exactly.
Who gives honesty to power, right?
Yeah.
People are not afraid, and I'm not saying I'm asserting power, but that's people perceive it's positional power. I'll
Absolutely.
tell you, the most transformational moment in my life there have been many, with my own husband and my children, who are the most astute people I know. And I was thinking about changing jobs actually before I came here, and my kids were middle school age. And I was very, very fortunate to have had two separate job offers at the same time, because I was looking necessarily to make a transition. And I asked around the dinner table, hey guys, which one should I take? I explained both organizations, which were both amazing organizations on their own right. And my son, who's my oldest, he said, well, mommy, I don't care which one you take, as long as you don't come home angry anymore. So you want to talk about eye-opening from your own kid, that maybe that high intensity, high performing, go, go, go at all costs, subscribing to what I thought was effective leadership, that was crossing over into my own family life. Then I got the message that I was not only not being an effective enough leader in my work, but it was shaping my personality as a mother and as a wife.
Mm.
And holy cow, you better get a hold of that, because this is not good. And that's not how you want to live your life. And it's not how you want to do your work.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty transformational to me. And I talk about it with my kids and my husband all the time today. And, we're in high stress environments. We all are. You are in your work. And it's how we deal with the stress and how we let it affect us that is what we should be focusing on.
I couldn't agree more.
And yeah, stress is tough. And my job previously, loved it, loved the organization, but it was killing me.
Yeah.
And I was allowing it to interfere with my personal life
Because
in a bad way.
they're not going to ever tell a high performer to stop doing, right? And I think I'm guilty of it, and I think it's these points of burnout, whatever we want to call it, that breaking point. And it's almost like cyclical in my life, right? I can go 3 months and then I'll have that point, or I'll go 6 months and then I'll have that point. And it's really when I reflect is that how out of balance that I truly am, in those 6 buckets of social, mental, emotional, financial, career, intellectual. If all those buckets aren't kind of in balance, and it's not in balance within the day, I think that's a fallacy that many of us like start to believe in some cases, that it's even possible to do all those things in one day. But it is that reflection point, Donna, like you said, and I think those are the people that truly love me, the ones that are giving me honest, constructive feedback, that I can do something with. Those are the people that I've found the most comfort with, whether it be my wife, whether I'm sure my son will tell me, he tells me every day, don't go to work, stay here, right? But those are like Tyler. Those are the people that really show me love or show me that I'm seen and valued and heard, are the ones that are willing to give me that honest feedback because they know my intention, right? They know my intention is not to make them feel bad or to become over aggressive or powerful or any of those things. But to your point, Donna, it's finding those people that can give you that real honest feedback of what it's truly like to be on the other side of you. And how that stress
Mhm.
is starting to impact the way that you respond or the way you answer questions or any of that. So I really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that, because that was only back in 2011, right? When you were making that decision to go over to Holy Childhood. So here we are,
Right.
people believing that they should know all of this stuff at 26 or 25. You can't unless you're really going through those experiences, but being in tune enough to listen to others.
hmm I have to be really honest with you that being the way I was is probably my single greatest professional regret.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. I wish I could rewind and have a redo.
Wow.
I'd be so much better. Oh, and again, people look, my coworkers today might listen to this and go, "Yeah, you still got to work on it." You know, and I know this. I feel it. But I'm so much more aware of how my behavior and can impact people in not a good way. And I think back on people who have been the leaders of organizations that I've been in as I've come up, and there've been some excellent ones. All of us are flawed human beings,
Mhm.
but there have been some which have really shined. They shine through the experience and their leadership and their mentorship. There have been some good ones to follow. And, we've all seen people who are not the best examples of how that should be too.
Yeah.
So
That's probably where I've
I've been
learned the
lucky.
most. That's probably where I've learned the most myself. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, Donna, and I was literally just about to ask you, going from job to job, you still got to take yourself with you, fortunately or unfortunately, right? What key changes did you make right off the bat, or when you started being more aware of your old leadership style?
Being aware, taking a moment to take a breath, don't just react, zing,
Mhm.
hold on, hold on, because you can't take the zing back, right? And and then that shapes the whole rest of the conversation or interaction. It's don't use I statements or don't think about turning conversations back to people. How about why did you do that? It's more, I'm wondering what led you to come to the decision to do this. Tell me what you were thinking. It's less confrontational, and not so angry, and taking a breath. So that's probably the key. Smiling more, frowning less. Not every situation is life or death. In fact, virtually none of them are.
Mhm.
And a mistake or a bad decision, things that don't turn out the way we want, and accepting that, I guess, is
I hear you. I hear you. And like, the biggest part to me as a leader is kind of like, how do you detach from being in the weeds so you can have more like a vision for your folks? Because, a lot of leaders I've had, including myself, we're really good at the day to day, right? And to just kind of detach. I think, how do you detach from being in
mm,
the weeds and being on the
well,
day to day to have that more vision and strategy for your company?
so I'll tell you what, if the old leadership behavior is my biggest regret professionally, my second biggest regret is the fact that being too much in the weeds is still something that is a problem for me. And so what it means is I'm not allowing the people I work with to develop more fully because I'm such a perfectionist. It's not that I don't have confidence in them, but I'll go like, no, it's okay. I'll do that. I'll write that. I'll take care of it because I know it'll get done quickly. And, that's one of the things working in TV did for me. I could, crank it out and be on. But I need to take that step back every single day and hand it to them and say, you've got this. You're closest to the weeds on this. Take a stab at this because you know the thing. And if you want me to look at it or you want my input after you have framed it, we'll talk it through, but let's do it together. And I'm trying hard to be that kind of leader too, because I'm doing no one a favor and I'm doing the organization no favor if I don't develop the people who are coming up.
Right.
What if I get hit by a bus? Am I the only one who's the keeper of the keys? Well, that's ridiculous. And then the agency's in trouble.
The one thing that helped me out with that exact same situation, Don, what connected me is I can probably teach someone in their mid-30s how to do things and be okay with it. That just hit me a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, holy smokes, because I would teach her how to just put the keys in this bucket, and she would just bucket, keys, bucket. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're not even 15 months old yet, and maybe listen to a little Take It Easy sometimes, if you like your Eagles over there. So I don't know. So the weeds is a tough thing, I think, for perfectionists, right? Like probably all of us on this call, and to me, like, perfection is almost an excuse to me nowadays. To being a leader, you feel that you really do collaborate well.
To be, you're in a position of responsibility, but I like to work collaboratively with my team because they make me better and they teach me things, and then I don't feel as isolated. I'm not in it alone. And that counts for my board too. I have wonderful boards associated with this organization and the bakery. These are real leaders and they're so invested, but I learn something from them every day. Just like I learn from a person who might be very entry level in this organization, just starting their career. I learn from them. I learn why they're doing it. I learn where the passion resides in the service they're providing. That teaches me something. So it is kind of 50-50 though, because you feel like it's my responsibility to make these decisions or to think for the future, strategize for the organization. I've got to drive that. I've got to lead that. And that's isolating. Or when things aren't good, I take it on. I totally take it on.
Well, hey, what's your favorite part of being a leader, Donna? Let's turn this to some positivity now. And I thank you so much for your transparency. Because to me, people's failures is how we learn. I think, when I'm talking to someone and they failed a million times, they're like a dead genius at what they're doing now because they know what not to do.
Yeah.
And real quick, so I remember you talking about your news crew that you got to tag along and see success and what it looked like. Have you been in any of your other companies where you have seen success in the flesh, in person, and what did you learn from them and who are they?
Yeah. So much success. I don't mean, was I a downer this whole 45 minutes?
No
I
way.
I love it. No, I think that's how we learn.
Yeah. So I see success here every day. If I watch what's happening in the delivery of education and services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, we are training people to be their best selves, independent, self-sufficient, fulfilling lives. That's success right there. I mean, we're providing people tools for opportunity for their futures. There is no greater success than that on a really micro level and a macro level. But when I see success in our staff, our team here every day, what they're doing is way more important than what I'm doing. way more. Any grant I write or any budget I do, yet they're doing the real good, the real success. So that's what that's about. But I love victory, as I said, not for myself. When we get the $1 million grant, yeah, that's victory. When we, balance the budget, yay. When we get funding that we never didn't expect, or we get accolades for being innovative with the bakery, that's an innovation. That's entrepreneurship that I'm very proud of on behalf of the people who are benefiting from it. That's success.
And when you talk about entrepreneurship, and a lot of times, and it seems like, right, that old leadership style versus your new leadership style, process, policy, procedure. I mean, that's a lot of the old style to get consistency, right? You talk about innovation, you talk about wanting entrepreneurs, you're learning every day. Because I think you're asking the right questions. And maybe that's what you learned as a journalist, that it's a lot about asking the right questions to really uncover the, let's say, quantitative and qualitative data that you're then putting together to make collective decisions or collaborative decisions. How do you create the learning what you learned from your past experiences, right? Where they probably didn't have an environment where people felt comfortable speaking up or sharing new ideas or saying that something was getting in the way. What have you been intentional about changing in this servant leadership mindset to welcome all ideas, right? Even the person that just started today. How can I still take something from their experience to learn so I can help the experiences of everyone? How have you created that environment, and maybe some of your key principles or practices when it create that high trust environment where feedback is shared openly and honestly, to really ultimately come out to the best solutions, so you can see people living their best lives?
So I continually strive to be open, accessible, and vulnerable. So I don't mind telling a brand new employee what my foibles are as a leader, right? I'll try to meet everybody and, where'd you come from? How'd you get here? And tell them a little bit about my story. And that creates a vulnerability or accessibility that hopefully are the seeds for openness. And, I think just presenting in a way that's not confrontational, that isn't dictatorial, and inviting conversation and truth with each other. And I don't know if I've been as successful as I'd like, but maybe someday I will be.
I think it's just the growth, right? Stepping outside our comfort zone, trying new things, and I can hear it in your voice and just some of the stories that you tell. Is identifying it first helps you to actually put tools and solutions together to change. There's other people that never reflect and are always just continue forward. And I go back to the recovering perfectionist. I mean, Tyler is not kidding. I think we got 3 perfectionists on here, and it can be really challenging, right? You want to watch others succeed, but you also want to not overwhelm them, and here we are saying that, yeah, we're willing to work 60, but I don't expect my other people to work 60 hours. So let me just take on that task and let me do it on my own. But when you say victory,
You're frozen again, Kevin.
I'm going to come off video. When you talk about victory and that shared success, how do you share success with others but not be trapped by your history?
By giving them the credit that they're due.
Wow.
Because they did it. And if they do it, if they're successful, that means that I aided, maybe. I won't say allowed. I mean, but maybe I aided in the success or helped to lift them up. That's how we celebrate it.
I love that. If I was to ask you what your daily intention is as a leader, what is your daily intention?
To bring out the best in everybody around me.
So what was it, if you were to say, coming out of college, first couple of careers in media, what was your intention then?
I don't know that I was smart enough to have any intention when I graduated from college. I
Me
just
either.
wanted to do this really cool job and be good at it. That was my intention. I hope I'm successful at this thing. Hope I look okay on TV and my writing is really good and my stories are excellent.
Mm,
I mean, I hate to be simplistic about it, but
no.
those are your goals. You're young, you want to be good at whatever you're doing. You don't worry about money, you don't worry about anything like that. You just want to go do the thing you think you love.
Yeah. And I heard I share a lot of I guess sentiment with what you said too, is always trying to prove myself. And I don't know if that's perfectionism. I don't know if that's growing up and how I grew up, but there is this sense that I'm not good enough, and how have you found yourself shaking that? Like, how have you shaken that idea that I have to prove myself or show what I'm good at or great at?
By making myself be self-aware that I might be doing it again.
Mm,
Anytime I catch myself from time to time, if we're in suppose we're in a board meeting or something where my senior leadership team is there, and maybe a board member might ask a question of us that I don't know if the answer's not coming fast enough, or they haven't quite framed it the way I might. There could be a tendency for me to interject. And if I could just be quiet
mhm.
and just remind myself, Stop it, let them speak. They'll be fine. You don't need to make them perfection or your perception of perfection. Just let it be. And so maybe that's the other part of the bumper sticker. Take a
Mhm.
breath, let it be.
I love that. I think that, yeah, I think that's so profound. Just what you said is, backing up, um, not trying to do too much. Tyler puts always as, stop taking yourself so seriously because nobody else is,
Right.
and I think that's such an easier way to go about it because perfection really is this belief that it can be perfect, but nothing's really ultimately perfect, not even science itself. So, I just really want to say thank you so much for being vulnerable. I think you putting yourself out there, obviously just on this podcast, but it sounds like you probably do that every day. That undoubtedly you're allowing people to come up to you and meet them. You're meeting them where they're at because it's okay for them not to be perfect. There's some beauty in our imperfections.
Donna, I was going to ask you, you keep saying over a few times that, so what does enough success look like to Donna Dedee? I have to know because
Wait, what does what six?
enough, what does
And
enough success look like to Donna Dedee?
it's never enough. What a terrible thing, right? But no, I'm I am always striving, maybe less proving, but always striving. And you look at the record of the positions I've taken, I've been really, really blessed, very fortunate to land in the places that I have that gave me a chance or an opportunity to develop and at the time to prove. And I've been very, very fortunate. And I hope I've given every entity something back that made it a little better by the time I left, right? Um, and that I guess that's enough success, right? Is to just to
Yeah.
leave it a little better than you might have found it, or a little different than when you found it, because I
Do,
don't know.
do you do anything outside of work that really challenges you?
Well, what do I do? I've always been an avid into sports, but I don't know. Probably nothing more. I can't think of anything
Oh,
that's
it's
super
all good. That's just
challenging.
something that's
Yeah,
helped me out, Donna, along the way.
yeah.
Like I'll
Mhm.
just pick up the most random challenging things and get into them because I stink at them, and it's amazing not being good at something at the beginning. It's so refreshing to my soul and my
Yeah.
mind about learning something new, whether it's
Mhm.
like trying to like hit a target like I don't know, 500 yards away with this random rifle I got. I'm down here in Texas, and it's just all in this range, and I'm so bad. I'm so bad, and it's so amazing. Like just but what happens to me is when I come back to the day job, my mind's clear, and this isn't just my whole life. I'm not giving everything and every ounce of me to my organization, which in a weird way helps me be better.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I don't think for me, when I started getting into the most random things, like with basketball, I've been playing basketball for 39 years. I'm 39 years old, you know, sure I can go make a bunch of threes and blah, 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 but it doesn't get me turning and aiming at something that I don't know how to do. I don't
Mhm.
know. I think it's just a very, very healthy thing that I've personally uh,
Yeah.
picked up. Same with golf, though. My goodness, you go out there and hopefully you can, it's recreation, right? Hopefully you can recreate yourself out there rather than getting mad at yourself, is what I
Yeah.
see a lot of people
I
do.
don't, I don't, no getting mad. No, and if my friends won't allow me to get mad, they make fun of me enough so that there is no mad.
That's
No,
too funny.
but you're right. And you know who has preached this is my kids and my husband again. You have got to disconnect and don't let this be the thing that defines you all day, every day, and outside of work. You need to disconnect, go do something you enjoy. Maybe it's the music, maybe it's I don't know, I listen to obscure things, talk radio and I'm kind of nerdy that way,
Right
And
on. I
yeah,
think
and
for,
and it's just a little disconnect. It's good.
yeah. And what's really helped me, I don't even know where I heard this, but like the hours that you're at home when you wake up, try to make that the most perfect part of your day with your family, right? Like instead
Mhm.
of already jumping to conclusions about what I'm going to do at my job today, it really has made an impact on me. I can tell you that much. And I'm a try and fail kind of guy. You know, I'll see something, I'll try it. But because I do get too honed in sometimes on work. And then in the day, that's kind of boring. I think I was telling Kevin, I was like, man, yeah, I love talking to. We almost have like 100 leaders now, CEOs and presidents in the Rochester and Dallas area. And I was telling them, I was like, in a weird way, man, I think business is kind of boring. You know, unless that's all I have. But I just think it's really, really important for me to have a
Yeah.
few flywheels out there and get them to start spinning in some harmony.
Yeah.
And to not take just one area of my life so seriously because there's so many things we can get into.
Yeah.
I think, and
It's one thing during COVID taught me, and the aftermath. We didn't see people for a long time, and
yeah.
finally we would all get together and people would say, "Oh, how are you?" And all of our tendency was to say, "Oh, this is terrible. I'm terrible. It's so hard. Oh my God, it's terrible, terrible,
Mhm.
terrible." And that's boring.
Yeah.
That is so boring. And I stopped. I stopped answering it that way. And I started saying, you know what? We're all in it and we're doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking. And I felt so much better, and maybe I was a little less boring.
Yeah. I
I
love
don't
I
know.
love what you just both of exactly what you guys are saying. I think work becomes our life, and I think this whole work-life balance or blend, we see it as really a static state, but it's far from static, right? It's more intuitive. It's more ebbs and flows. There is no homeostasis as it relates to work-life balance. And I'm like Tyler. I'll try anything out. I don't have work email on my cell phone. That was a byproduct of coming out of the pandemic because once I had email in front of me, I was going to get into email. Sometimes I found it more effective to save myself from myself by not putting myself into those certain situations because I am that fixer and that problem solver. And I'm not happy until it's done, but to Tyler's point, it's never really been about the destination. Once you're done, that's not where you're feeling fulfillment. It's the actual doing, learning, failing, succeeding. That really is what brings me energy and passion and purpose. It's never really been about the outcome itself. And I think in an outcome driven world that we are today, you can buy into that fallacy. It's like, oh, if you have this car, you have this home, or you have this, it means happiness. But it's surrounding ourselves with great people like yourself, Donna. So I knowing that, seeing somebody that we could look at your resume, and this is why I hate resumes. You might have never been given that opportunity if you applied just from Fox News, right? They may have never presented you that opportunity because no one thinks in transferable skill sets. We think in this very dogmatic way that if you did it before, you can do it again. If you haven't done it before, there's no potential that you can even do it. So I just think about your experience as a lesson to employers and other leaders today is transferable skill sets are something that we haven't really thought about, but have always been around. And really, truly, when we look and reflect, tells us the difference of those who are successful in certain roles versus others. And how can we get others to placate more to their strengths than their weaknesses? And I love it. I think that now being conscious of that family aspect and that component, it's not only leading of who you lead every day, it's how good of an effective leader are you when you get home? Or like me, I just took my foot off the gas and let my wife lead, right? It's like, I did it all day. Now it's your turn, right? You show me what I need to do and tell me where I need to be. But that's not really a partnership at the end of the day. That's no different than the old leadership style that we were talking about in the past too.
Yeah, I think you're head and shoulders above a lot of leaders we speak with just by you telling us your failures.
Oh yeah.
Like I love when people tell me how that's part of the journey we can laugh at in a way. We don't laugh at the outcome because there's always another outcome or always another destination, right?
Yeah.
But the fun part is like, dude, I really messed this up. Do you remember that? It's like, oh boy, yeah, I do. And me, it's every leader I've had that's never told me a bad thing about him. I don't know if I trust them, you know? I'm like, are you sure you've done this great all your life? You know? So I'm sure people are super open with you, Donna, just by you being able to speak like you do. So
well, I think it gives other people the idea that they have to be perfect, and if they're not perfect, then they're not going to do it. You know, so it's this wild waltz or dance that we're all trying to do under this false pretense that perfection actually exists.
Well, this has been fun.
This has been a ton of fun, Donna. I'm not sure at all what you expected of this show, but I told you,
I wasn't sure. I feel like I should write you a check for the counseling copay or something.
Oh,
no
this
way.
is a good conversation like we always have with folks, you know, and it makes you real, right? Like we could have probably cut on here and talked about, pies for an hour, but I always tell leaders, I'm like, people could probably go to your website and see that. They really want to know who Donna Dedee is, Donna. And you reflected that way more than a lot of folks do. I know that much. You came right out of the gate with some failures. You got my attention very quickly. So thank you.
Yeah. I must have needed it. It was very cathartic. So I must have needed to talk about it, I guess.
Good. Well, Donna, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being honest, being vulnerable, being open. Because I think there's a lot of other leaders that listen to this show that are going to want to become more self-aware as you are. I think the job is now running them, and they're looking for answers as to how do I stop this? And I think you gave some real tangible advice as to what you can start to do, and just try. It may not be successful for you, but at least you're going to come up on that next iteration or that next version of who you ultimately want to be and what you want your legacy to be. I'm a big start at the end, write that obituary for yourself, because then it's more likely that you can start to connect some of those dots as to what you're doing and what you need to be doing differently in order to achieve that legacy vision of yourself or version. So thank you so much. We so appreciate you being on the show. And just thank you for your leadership in our community.
Well, thank you too. Really appreciate it. It was great fun.